Hello and welcome to the debate. I'm your host Maqbool with you at PTV World. In today's show, we're going to be taking a look at two important stories. The first is going to be the developing situation in Gaza and, of course, the fighting that continues. Unfortunately, we have seen that about 8 months of genocide, the people of Palestinians have suffered immensely. More than 36,000 lives have been lost, including many women and children. And this is, of course, very, very unfortunate that it seems that there is no place safe left for the Palestinians. We saw that the bombing continued in Rafah despite the halt that was ordered by the ICJ, and we've also seen now that the refugee camps where displaced people are sheltered, including the UN encampments and UN designated sites, are also being targeted. And most recently, of course, a school was targeted in which more than 35 people so far reportedly have been killed and injured, but there are reports coming in of more lives being lost. And of course, this is something that is being done under the garb or the excuse that there were Hamas militants also sheltered within that camp. This is, of course, illegal by law, that any UN site cannot be targeted or cannot be part of any military exercise. However, we have seen previously as well that there is complete disregard of international norms and laws. So we're going to be discussing how exactly there is going to be any development for the people of Palestine, any relief for the people of Palestine, because we've also seen that while, of course, this fighting continues, there seems to be some efforts going on in terms of what the mediators are working towards, particularly in terms of a ceasefire deal between Hamas and Israel, and a proposal apparently that Mr. Joe Biden has also referred to has been sent to Hamas to consider. However, we've also seen that at the same time, Benjamin Netanyahu has talked about how they are going to be striving for complete victory and that they're not going to stop unless they have complete control over Hamas, and that is the only way that this is going to end. So we're going to be seeing what sort of a future then remains and what needs to be done to end the suffering of the Palestinians. This is going to be our focus in the first segment of the show today. Our next one is going to be taking a look at elections in India that we've been discussing for a couple of days now. Of course, we've seen that the BJP-led alliance has won. And of course, while the BJP hasn't won the kind of majority it was hoping for, it is still in the position of forming the government, of course, with the Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, all set to take the third term in office, which of course in itself is a historic a moment for Indian history, coming only after Mr. Nehru. And so we're going to be taking a look at what this means in terms of government formation, especially in terms of alliances within the ND and the BJP, and of course with reference to the opposition leaders as well, who fared much better perhaps than they were earlier predicted to. And so we're going to be taking a look also in terms of the future between the government and the opposition and the roles that different political parties are going to be playing, and then of course the challenges that India will be facing in terms of both domestic and foreign issues. This is going to be our focus in the discussion today. As always, in the studios, I've been joined by senior analyst Raja Faisal, and we've also been joined online by Mr. G.R. Baluch, who's the former ambassador, and Dr. Asad Noor Mirza, Vice Chairman, Palestine Forum, who's joined us for our first segment. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being part of the discussion. And I'll start with you, Ambassador Saab, because I want your perspective, particularly in terms of where we stand today. For the past 8 months and for the past many decades, this is something that has been continuing. And while, of course, there have been numerous condemnations to this genocide and numerous calls for an end to the hostilities, and of course, the kind of rulings that we've also seen by the ICJ, the steps taken by the ICC, and of course, many international players also coming forward to call for an end to this hostility. Of course, there's little that has had the effect that it has had on the Israeli forces, and it seems that the kind of statements and the kind of actions that we're seeing coming in point towards the fact that there is no real value of any of these norms and laws, at least in their eyes. And so while that continues and while that happens, and while UN camps and schools are being targeted and people's lives are being lost, what do we do about ending this? Because at the end of the day, it seems that all the mechanisms that are left to the international community are international laws, but they have repeatedly proved that it's not working and it seems redundant. What's your take on that, sir?
Sana, when we have been discussing this issue for the last now 8 months, Now it is so multidimensional, so complex. If you look at the humanitarian aspect of it, you yourselves narrated how gruesome and how sad situation is there. And just now, I think there was a bombing at a UN school where 6,000 refugees were sheltering. Palestinians were sheltering, and I think they bombed it. About now, the report is about 70 people have died. Bodies have come to the hospital, and majority is women and children. So I think the Israelis seem to be on their killing spree, and there is no kind of reducing of that. Their madness, their killing spree. Nothing is working because what we see in the so-called civilized world, so-called Western supporters of Israel, it appears for them any law, any international law is just words, it's just books. When the most ridiculous was a warning by some of the U.S. congressmen and senators to the IS, to the International Criminal Court judges and prosecutors, and to put sanctions on them. And I think there's a resolution probably being passed or has been passed. What to that effect? And of course, the way the ICJ rulings have been flouted. So I think it's all what's called law of the jungle now prevails as far as Gaza is concerned. So I think really the world seems helpless in front of this might of those who support Israel. So I think, but there's one I think silver lining, that is the courage, the tenacity, and the creativity with which the Palestinian fighters are fighting in Gaza. In fact, I was reading just now a report that how they've been able to kind of develop a new doctrine of subterranean warfare. That is the trench or underground. It is so extensive, it's so complicated. It's not only the structure which is like complex, but it is the complexity of their fighting tactics and strategy. So I think there is this hope that ultimately the perpetrators of this cruelty will tire, and ultimately the will of the people to resist the tyrant will prevail. And that's the only hope. I think the world has it. That's the hope that Palestinians have it. And I, as a sympathizer, a supporter of all right causes, including the cause and rightful cause of Palestinian brothers and sisters. Yes.
Dr. Asad, obviously when we talk about, there are countries that are, of course, supporting the onslaught of Israel on the basis that they believe that Israel has the right to defend itself. Defend itself against whom? Kids, children, elderly, women, because so far we've been seeing that bombs, indiscriminate bombs, they were being dropped on innocent people of Gaza. And very recent one, of course, today's news, we are seeing that the bombs are dropped on UN run school where all of the Gazans, they were of course sheltering themselves there, and this is where they bomb, knowing the facts that there are many people there, kids there, and of course elderly there. So knowing all of this, Israel is still doing it, but with the help of, there are a few Western countries who are still allies of Israel against Gaza. So can we say that if Israel and Netanyahu's government is not coming to terms with it, that this is genocide, can we expect that the countries that are still standing with Israel, they will be coming to terms with it, that whatever is going on it's utter genocide and this must end?
And Dr. Asad, if you could add to this question also what the Pakistan-Palestine Forum is doing in this situation, and the reach that you have or the impact that you have created, and what sort of efforts have been put into place for the Palestinians.
Yes, thank you very much for having me on the show. First of all, there is no doubt in it that this is a genocide. The so-called torchbearers of the Holocaust, they are doing the Holocaust now. If we look at the reasons and the motives behind this whole operation Israel is carrying out, it's now very clear. If somebody says that the vision of Israeli forces is not clear, I think he's living in a fool's paradise. So my first question is, and I've already been asking this every now and then at various forums, that how Mossad was unable to trace whatever was going to the Palestinian fighters, and how it failed to trace the money and the finances which they claim that the Palestinian fighters were having. So this was everything was by design. And secondly, if you follow their media, the Israeli media, you would see that Israel is now trying to expand this. Now they are talking about Hezbollah. Now they are talking about Iran. Now they are, putting news by themselves inside the international media that Iran is on the offensive against Israel. They are putting themselves that Hezbollah is on the offensive. Now they are having reports from their indigenous innate, intelligence agencies that they're going to attack. So basically, everything is going on, and this is by design. And you also said, and as Sir Baluch said rightly, you see, it is not the number. Almost the whole General Assembly is against whatever is going on. You see, how many countries voted in favor of Israel? Just 7 or 8. And but it is not the number of the country; it is the economic and military might which is in support. Obviously, I'm talking about our friend, the United States. So they have vetoed every time whenever the permanent members or the non-permanent members of the Security Council they had asked for the ceasefire. They vetoed it simply. I am unable to understand, and my forum's vision is the same vision which the U.S. nation, the U.S. general public holds, and whatever opinion is being carried out at Harvard, at Hopkins, at MIT, our opinion is the same. That first, please stop this. And now everybody knows that they were just trying to, but this is just a land grab. This is no war. War is between two equivalent opponents. Where is who is the opponent of Israel? How can you equate Palestinian fighters or Hamas with Israel, who's having Iron Dome and such advanced technology and whole of the military might of the United States behind their back? Now, secondly, I must say and I must add that it is the failure of the OIC. Um, History has given us a lot of times and a lot of moments where OIC should have, taken the lesson and should have prepared itself for the future. Now, talking about this future in which we are at the current time, they never prepared themselves. So apart from few countries like Saudi and the UAE and Qatar, they are trying, and just look at the other countries, what they are doing. So the general public is protesting. They are, trying to send aid. They're trying to send their doctors. Like us, our forum, but we have been trying. I cannot, explain in detail on this platform, but we have been, trying to send aid in various forms, like in medical facilities, like in medical human resource and other things. What the United Nations Charter allowed us, we were trying to do that. But having said that, there was a time in the initial setting when we were not allowed to cross the border of the Egypt. And in the initial time of when this so-called brutality started from one side only, initially our brotherly country, they were not allowing us visas to go there and serve our brethren in misery. And then when they allowed, we were stopped at their Israeli border. So I was telling this from the very start that this is just about the coastline, because there are now the whole international media is flooded with information. Everyone can just simply get to know that it was about the coast, and because it holds oil. And then there are some certain trace minerals which are in the belt of the Gaza land. So they will kill everyone. Make no mistake, they don't consider the Palestinians human even. And I must say to the whole, my appeal to the whole world is that you when you make an appeal, you make an appeal to a sane brain, to human beings who have some aura of humanity left in them. Israel has no humanity in them. They don't consider, apart from them, they don't consider others human. Whatever they have to do, they will do it unless the veto states they do something about it. Because, frankly, Israel is trying to initiate a world war here now. What they are trying to do, they're just trying to grab Israel and Lebanon inside their so-called staged drama. Because we are of a firm opinion that they did this on purpose. And where are those videos of beheaded children of Israel? And we are still so much time has passed. We are unable to see those videos. Who did this? They claim the Palestinians did it. We are unable to see it. But we are seeing our children, burned alive, our sisters burned alive, shattered in pieces, people walking on the land, and the drone comes and it destroys it into bits and pieces. This is something which is far from humanity. These people are not human, I must say.
Absolutely. And Dr. Asad, regarding the Pakistan-Palestine Forum and the efforts, if you could shed some light on that, please.
Yes, you see, we have met with various ambassadors of our Muslim countries who are part of the OIC, and what we could have done, we have done that, and we are still trying, to gather aid and to send them via, legal channels, possible channels. Sometimes there is resistance at one place, and then there is ease at some other place. So we take, I cannot go in that detail, but we take help, and then we have to, send aid. Especially we are working in collaboration with Doctors Without Borders, And I'm telling you, recently a friend of ours told us, and we have received a video. If I can share that. He was, amputating the leg of a young girl without anesthesia. I mean, just look what is going on. This seems like the time of Hitler, when they used to, capture the Jews. We say that Holocaust was not a good thing, but they are doing the same thing now. Like Hitler, they used to capture the Jews. That they used to take them into their laboratories. They used to do their experiments on them of various drugs, new surgical techniques. They used to torture them in various gas chambers and various gases. Now, what are these people doing? Throwing phosphorus and newly designed weapons on them. I mean, this is so brutal.
Absolutely, I understand that. And Faisal, when we, of course, take a look at the situation, we've been highlighting the suffering, unfortunately, for the past 8 months, because it has continued so far, and of course, it has continued longer, much longer as well. And so we want to, of course, end this as immediately as possible. But while we take a look at the way things have been evolving and the way different mechanisms have failed to actually end the suffering, I want your perspective also in terms of what next and what sort of impact or efforts can be created to actually make a difference, especially when we talk about political leaders like the OIC, as Dr. Asad mentioned, or even other countries or the international community in general, to exert influence and to make sure that there are steps taken in the right direction. Where do you think there is a possibility of hope?
Yes, Sana, it's a very good question. First of all, earlier Dr. Asad was mentioning about how they are actually, they were the ones who suffered at the hands of Hitler and Nazis, and now they are the ones who are doing it. To me, I would just add in that they have turned the whole Gaza into Auschwitz, and right now whatever is happening in Gaza, it is no less than Auschwitz. Whatever happened in Auschwitz, it is actually happening in Gaza, and this must be stopped. Now coming to the question, it's a very good question. Why I say this? Because there are powerful countries that are still siding with Netanyahu and Israel, only on the basis of what? In every speech, you would hear a sentence coming from Netanyahu saying, the only Jewish state Israel, only Jewish state Israel. So he's trying to portray as if it's a Jewish state. It's not a Jewish state, it's a Zionist state. Zionism was a political struggle, and it's a Nazi-like struggle. It's hate-filled. It's a bunch of hate mongers that are actually ruling over that land, Palestine, and they have called it Israel, and it is not a Jewish state. If it was a Jewish state, Jews themselves would not be protesting against it in London, in New York, in massive big capitals of the world. They have been themselves protesting against this genocide. And I'm talking about the Jews who are protesting against the Zionists in the Western capitals. When it comes to, Pakistan's role in it, Pakistan played a role in terms of, speeches of Ambassador Munir Akram. I was so amazed, I was so impressed by his speeches. Why? Because I still remember he was the one whose speech in United Nations, it triggered everyone, and that's when we started seeing Norway coming up, Ireland coming up, countries like Slovenia, they coming up, and now there are more countries. Spain is in the line. Even French are thinking about it, that whatever is happening, it is wrong and it must stop now. And I think as Pakistan maintained that pre-war 1967 borders must be accepted, and it's a two-nation solution. I mean, two-state solution to this whole menace which has been created by Netanyahu's design and Zionist design, and of course they're claiming that it's a Jewish land. It's not a Jewish land at all. To me, I think right now it's not about Netanyahu, it's not about Israel. We don't need to, of course, convince them anymore, and the world doesn't need to convince them anymore. World needs to talk to the countries that are still standing with them, fueling this war with their arms. They are still sending them arms. They are still sending them arms of billions of dollars every month.
Including the US?
Including the US.
So who needs to talk to the US then?
To be honest, when we say US, we shouldn't be saying US. We should only be saying Biden administration, because it's the Biden administration is doing it. If we take the example of US as a country, US as a people, they are coming out against this genocide. They are coming out every day.
Sure, but of course talking about the government, I understand that, Faisal, but I want your perspective, especially in terms of who really can exert that influence on the United States.
Well, as Dr. Asad was saying, there are very influential countries within the OIC. There are influential countries in the world, in the Western world as well. They can do it. They can sit with the Western countries like US, Biden administration, then the British as well. They can sit with them, they can convince them that this is a genocide and this must end, and it can only be ended through disconnecting the support which you are providing to Israel and Netanyahu. Netanyahu is modern day Hitler, and this needs to be realized, and this must end now.
Ambassador Saab, I want your perspective also in terms of what sort of influence or pressure or diplomacy can actually be used, especially when it comes to countries such as the US or those who are still standing up with Israel, and the way that OIC countries can actually play their own role in this regard. And I want your perspective in terms of the dynamics both of politics, of geography, of economics that are involved in this entire discussion, and in the way that that's actually going to play out, because of course there have been efforts that have been made, there are channels that are being used, there are the international community who is standing up, but there are so many other factors that unfortunately have guided such humanitarian issues or genocides or wars or hostilities all over the world, that it hasn't unfortunately been so simple, however simple it may seem, to end a hostility. And so we've seen decades and decades of conflict and genocide continue even in Palestine and in other parts of the world as well. So what really is your take here in terms of the ability of the international community or countries to exert that sort of influence on each other and create that tact or diplomacy or that channel which allows for decision makers like the US or other allies standing up with Israel today to change their minds?
As far as the world opinion is concerned, I think there is now ample evidence to show, if you look at the UN resolutions which were passed by thumbing majority of people, of the members, over 143, 45 were in support of the last, and many other resolutions which were passed for demanding and asking Israel to stop this genocide, and that a solution, a negotiated solution has to be found. So there is no denying the fact that the world opinion is on one side, and there's a minority actually countries, perhaps one or two, but they are very powerful potentially. So they are there. So I think what now, since you asked me, I was thinking that perhaps the world has to come up with new narratives, with new arguments. Let's look at this crisis from the point of view of long-term stability and peace in the Middle East, and the salience of Middle East as a strategically important region. So I think we now need to really advance, go beyond the humanitarian cries, and because their conscience doesn't prick at all. So whatever number of people they kill, they'll kill. So perhaps a new argument has to be formulated that look, even it is not in your long-term interest. It's not in the long-term interest of Israel as a country, so to say. In fact, there were very interesting studies now recently that a record number of Israeli Jews citizens have sought citizenship in different countries. Out of all, like in Poland, there was a study that there was a surge in applications for citizenship. So likewise, I think and in fact there were also reports of some of the return of Russian Jews who had gone to Israel in the hope that they'll have a prosper life and a subsidized life. After all, we must not forget that Israel's economy runs on a subsidized funding, $4 to $5 billion a year. And of course, recently we've seen hundreds of billions of dollars, $45 billion of military assistance and other assistance have been given by the US. It's all taxpayers' money. So I think the taxpayer in the US, the taxpayers in UK and in Germany have to be told. And I think this is where the battle now lies of narratives. The battle lies in packaging your message and then conveying and using the modern tools of communication, which will include everybody, all the Muslims, all the Arabs, the Palestinians, and all those countries which believe in peace, which believe in human values, which believe that there is a civilizational law which must prevail, that there has to be a rule of law under which this world must work. So I think that peace-loving community, international community, has to come together, advance new logical arguments which are there. We just have to convey our message so that enough pressure is exerted on the US and other countries which are still backing this brutal war of Israel.
And Ambassador Saab, if you could also add to that the possibility of the ceasefire or the discussion on this proposal that has been mentioned by Mr. Biden. And of course, Hamas has said that they're going to consider it positively, while of course Benjamin Netanyahu has also spoken about how they're going to be striving for a complete end of Hamas. So do you see a possibility of this actually working out in any way?
I think there is a contradiction in terms of what Biden is saying, that this is a Israeli solution. If that is the Israeli solution, why Israel on God's earth is not supporting it? Why does it abide by its own solution? So while Hamas has not once but twice or thrice has said, we agree with it. They were actually, I think a couple of weeks back, they were like celebration in the streets of Gaza. All people came up when there was a statement from Hamas that we have agreed to the ceasefire. So I think there's a hypocrisy that while we dangle this solution, which essentially to show a humanitarian face, a human face to the world, while at the same time we perpetuate this brutal war. So unless this hypocrisy comes to an end, I think there seems to be little hope. But still, we have to keep our hope alive. Sarah.
Absolutely. Dr. Asad, we've seen in the past many months the way that social media has played a very important role in actually spreading awareness about what is going on in Gaza, and we've had some brave people also coming in from Gaza, actually reporting to us and risking their lives while doing so, and trying to show the world what really is happening on ground. And I want your perspective on the power that you think this has when we talk about the world actually being able to see it with their own eyes. Unfortunately, as I say, it's a genocide that we're seeing live, But when we talk about the way that it's important to keep it in front of people's eyes so that they don't forget in a world where the next moment the story is old, I want your perspective in what can be done in order to make sure that it's always alive, it's always urgent, it's always a priority, and especially with efforts in Pakistan also with regards to protests being carried out or this voice being raised or people realizing what's going on and making sure their voice is heard. What do you think more can be done using the power of digital and social media?
Yes, you see, this is a very important tool now. Social media is very strong and it's highly permeative, I must say. And but unfortunately, these are software technologies and there are tools inside. And I can give you a simple example. If after this show ends, you just open your YouTube and you write something about, just write latest about Gaza war, and you're going to see that the 50 to 100 tabs it's going to open YouTube, it will be from the Israeli media. So what would you do about that? So unless I'm from, I'm from this brotherly country to Palestine, and I have a love in my heart for them, and right love, I mean logical love. We're not just loving them that they are just Muslims, so we are Muslim, we are going to love them. No, they are on the right point in history. They were and they are, and inshallah they will be every time. I must tell you one thing. We all know that Qadi Azam never liked the creation of this state, so he was of a particular opinion. We all know that. There's no need to go into that detail. As far as the Ottoman Empire was there, the Masons they tried very hard to somehow buy lands in Palestine and somehow be there. So from the time of our second caliph, Hazrat Umar Raziallah, and up till the Ottomans, especially the second last king of the Ottomans, they were not allowed, the Jews were not allowed to buy a land over there. They were given all the rights. But then when the World War ended and the UK, passed their declaration, and basically it was the United Kingdom which, started everything. Now I think they should take the lead role and they should tell them, okay, we won the war, we decided something, and we think that this is something which was created out of a fault. So now we are here to amend it, and let's stay together and amend it. So my one point is this: UK must take a lead role, and they should talk to America, because unless American establishment, unless it backs off from Israel brutality, this war is not going to stop, because they just want to grab the whole land of Gaza. They just want to kill everyone. They want to get the oil out. They want to, install their rigs at the earliest. They're already made contracts with the oil companies. This is all on the international media. So they're killing everyone. They don't care. They're going to kill everyone in UN designated camps, and they're going to say, oh, it was just a mistake. This is what is going on. I mean, this is not human. This is not humane. These people are not human. Secondly, you were talking about social media, and one of those things which social media led to economic boycott, especially in the Muslim countries. As far as our being a layman or an ordinary citizen are concerned, we did our part. But we don't know, for example, for instance, in Pakistan, we can try to mark and tag those companies which, directly or indirectly were operating from Israel, and we boycotted them. And those groups, I'm not going to take those names, obviously, and now their economy has been destroyed. One of those biggest joints in the economic sector, in the corporate sector, now it's going to be sold in America, and the American party is going to buy the Israeli product, so just in order to save them. Secondly, who is stopping the United Nations peacekeeping forces to put their boots on ground? Who is stopping them? I will tell you who is stopping them. This is because they don't consider Palestine a country. They say this is the issue of the Palestinians. They don't say that this is the issue of Palestine. They think that this is only one country, that is Israel, and there is just one section in Israel, which is some people, millions and millions and some people, and this is not a country. I will take quote the example of former President Trump when he was addressing somewhere, and he said that issue of the Palestinians. It is not the issue of the Palestinians. It is the issue of a Palestine. It is a country, for God's sake. Everyone acknowledges it, and now countries in the West, they have taken the lead role, and they are one by one they are recognizing this the status of Palestine. So coming to the most important thing that one could do to end this war, it is very simple. I will ask my worthy and respected ambassador is sitting here. I will ask him, who is fueling the jets of the Israeli defense force? Who is fueling that? Where is that petrol coming from? Where is that high octane coming from? So this is finger snap. If you want to end this war, there are few countries, they're going to just make a phone call. Yes, Mr. President, we're going to stop your oil. And this war, we're going to stop your oil. And this war, we're going to impose a huge economic boycott. This war would end. And secondly,
Absolutely.
yes, and I'll finish it. Secondly, there is a terminology in, when the Cold War started, there was a term known as Lord of Wars. These people, these groups were those groups who were selling arms and ammunition. So these are those people who are sitting in the states, and they're part of the deep state, because deep state elements are everywhere in every country, whether it's a developed country, it's a developing country, everywhere there are elements of the deep state. So they have to sell their arms and ammunition. So what favors them? War favors them, whether it is unilateral, whether it's a just war or an unjust war. You see, wars, there were few wars which were just. Almost all wars were, not required, but that happened, and this was part of the history. So I must say that the United States and the West, they talk about civics. They teach everyone civics. They teach everyone civil rights. These people consider themselves the torchbearers of humanity. So you
Right.
see, look, what the torchbearers of humanity are doing. So they have purposely, the Israelis, they have purposely divided the Palestinian first. Just look at them. Just follow my point, if you what I'm trying to say. And
Yeah.
now they orchestrated this whole thing, and this has led to killings of innocent people.
Absolutely, and we totally understand that sentiment, and you're right. Unfortunately, it is so tragic and unfortunate that if people really wanted to end this, they could do it very soon. But thank you very much, Dr. Asad, for joining us in the discussion, and we hope that the world understands that no one is free until all of us are free. But we'll continue our discussion now towards what is going on in India, and of course, with the election results announced and the government formation on its way, we have of course also seen that the PM Modi is all set for a third term in office. And of course, this may not be the kind of victory perhaps that the BJP had planned, but they are nonetheless going to be forming the government. But what sort of challenges exist and what sort of modalities will be part of that government, of course, remains to be seen. And Ambassador Saab, I'll take your perspective on this first in terms of how you view the elections and the results in particular. Of course, have they surprised you in any way? Are there any challenges that this points towards, especially in terms of how the Congress and its alliance have actually fared in these elections? And have also put up this stance against the government that they're not to be taken as lightly as perhaps the BJP would have imagined. But do you think that that would make any difference in terms of how the BJP actually now rules the government in the third term in office, especially considering the fact that it has lost the kind of unilateral power that it enjoyed in the past decade or so?
Yes, Anna, the Indian elections are very important as a process of democracy, because India does boast as being one of the biggest democracy. After all, over 650 million people have voted, and it has gone on for like 8 weeks, this whole process. Obviously, the results were surprising for many people because there was an element of exaggeration that one could feel, and we probably understand that these exit polls are manipulated by those powerful people, especially those if they are in power. So there was this that there might be a minus plus 10, but the very fact that the BJP could not even muster enough seats as compared, I think it lost about 87 seats as compared to its last 2019 tally. So from that point of view, yes, it was. But at the same time, it was, as an observer, I think it was also a pleasant surprise that there are people in India who do understand and they do kind of see now the real face of BJP, the commodity of the hate and otherness which they were trying to sell, and they're still trying to sell it in India, seem to have lost its credibility. The very fact that BJP even lost from that very constituency where the Ram Mandir was opened with big fanfare as the last finale of their whole process of electioneering by the BJP. In fact, I was reading a interview of a young man from that very city, and he said, yes, I did go into enjoying the rally for the opening of the Ram Mandir, but when it came to my voting, I voted for the party which will give me jobs. So I think India does face a very big challenge. Of course, it might have at the top big indicators, economic indicators, but at the bottom line, I think there's a huge swath of people who are still poor. They are under the poverty line. There is still joblessness in India of educated people even. So I think there are now the Indian people seem to have awakened to that. Partly it also goes the credit to Congress and especially Mr. Rahul Gandhi, who really worked very, I think, tirelessly. He went on a foreign foot from end to end in the country, then again a train ride and so on and so forth. So I think he was able to mobilize, and I think the India alliance did come up better than what people were expecting to come up with. Now, for me, more than this is important question as a Pakistani or as an observer, is that what will happen now in India? Will BJP continue with its same kind of internal and external policies, or will there be some constraints on it? Will there be some bars on it, because it will have to find some alliances? But still, I think they will be able to probably continue, because they think that is the very winning formula that they have. They might have to tune up, improve upon some economic indicators for the poor people or for joblessness. But overall, their philosophy of divide and rule, their philosophy of otherness, their strategy to appeal to the nationalistic feeling of Hindu, and their dream of creating a Hindu Rashtra in India, that they will try to follow up. Seems to me that they probably would continue to one, that they will continue their Hindutva policies, number one. Number two, they might continue to marginalize Muslims and other minorities. And then the other most dangerous thing that they have done, and probably they'll continue to do that, is to kind of bring in their own saffron cadre in the Indian state institutions, including the judiciary, the police, army and administration. And of course, there is a big dream of Modi and his party, that is to change even the name of India into Bharat. So I will not be surprised if they will go ahead with these kind of their gimmicks, and continue to follow their policies internally in this structure. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Right, absolutely. Thank you very much, Ambassador Saab, for joining us and being a part of our discussion today. And Faisal, I want your take also quickly on this, especially with regards to government formation and the way that you see now the top positions being shared. Of course, perhaps the PM is clear, but there is, of course, the NDA alliance also, and how this is going to look like. So what sort of parliament do you foresee for India?
Yes, and obviously, if we talk about Modi getting into premier office this time around, he's not going to, premier office, he's crippling towards it. Why I say this? Because he hadn't had the right number to, of course, get into it. And that is why he's, getting support from the other parties within the NDA, like this Telugu Desam party. We know that Chandrababu Naidu, he's been, pivotal in this formation. And as we mentioned last month, remember, we did talk about it, and of course Aditya was in the show as well, and I said there are two ministries that would be sacrificed only to get to the premiership, and one of them is, of course, Home Ministry, and the other one is Defense Ministry. Right now we know that Chandrababu Naidu, he's actually demanding Home Ministry from Modi ji, and I know that Modi ji would have to sacrifice one of these two, and in coming days we will be seeing that the cabinet formation would be quite a funny formation. Reason being, there will be parties that would be, of course, seeking the ministries. So this time around, as Modi is crippling towards premiership, his government would be quite crippled as well, because this time around the opposition would be quite strong. We know that morally they are very strong and they are very upbeat right now, especially Congress itself. And if we talk about Rahul Gandhi, and if we talk about Sonia Gandhi and the Gandhi family itself, they are very vibrant right now, and they will be, of course, giving Modi very tough time in coming days.
Right. Thank you, Faisal, for that, and of course for being part of the debate. As always, that's all we have from the show. We'll now see you tomorrow.